This is our 8th video on hospitality operations for top-up students. In this video, we will focus on revenue and yield management.
Hello everyone, this is Ken Barna. I recently met with Catherine Tremeau, Manager of Revenue and System Optimization, and we discussed some trends and where the industry is headed. I started by asking her how she entered the field of revenue management.
I worked at the front desk and in reservations, and I had the opportunity to spearhead the creation of a revenue management discipline at the hotels and became the revenue manager there.
What sorts of challenges do hoteliers face today?
I think there's so many different sets of challenges that properties face, but the common areas really have to do with technology and the efficient use of technology, I think, is where most of the challenges, I've seen for various types of clients. Mm-hmm. It's hard for customers to actually keep up. We always encourage customers to reach out to account managers and ask what's new and can you take a look and tell me is there anything else that I should take a look at that I'm not using in the system.
At Sabre Hospitality, we have a close working relationship with the School of Hotel Administration at Cornell University. And Catherine recently worked with Professor Cheryl Kimes to develop a 360 view of hotel revenue management for our recent webinar.
I think collaborating with Professor Kimes was really beneficial just because she has such a strong academic background and the ability to really vocalize the trends. And I was able to bring more of the practical side of revenue management. And what we achieved with that collaboration is really connecting all the dots.
What is one trend that you think is very prevalent in the industry?
Total revenue management, meaning looking at all the sources of revenue at the property, not just the rooms, although it is the primary source for most properties. Function space, food and beverage outlets, parking, spa services, anything that generates revenue needs to really be taken into consideration.
How should a hotelier optimize rate versus occupancy?
Hotels need to look at really maximizing both. And it's really a matter of balance. It's a balancing act. Any room that you sell has a cost attached to it, but so does any room that actually remain empty. Therefore, there's a lot of data to really look at to understand where the break-even point is and also how you're going to be able to maximize the profit, how you're going to flow the revenue down to the bottom line.
What is a feature that you see in the SynXis CRS that is often underutilized?
The channelized content. And our system is really a distribution system, and each channel have their own rules, their own specification, and a different target audience. And not a lot of properties take advantage of that by really customizing each of their description on their rooms and their rates to speak to that audience and to also really work well with the format of the channel.
Could you name a few of the revenue management consulting services that you and your colleagues offer here at Sabre Hospitality?
Well, we have a variety of services. Some are geared towards optimizing the use of the CRS. For example, we can do an audit of the CRS, an in-depth review of the setup, look at the production numbers, and look at how content is distributing to the various channels, and then give recommendations based on the findings to really optimize the tool and improve revenues. Other types of services that we offer are specific to the revenue management discipline. For instance, we do have a revenue management training workshop, which is a great training for anybody on the property who is involved with revenue management. So that could extend to sales and operations. And those are great to really introduce all the best practices of revenue management. We also offer full service revenue management, which will really help the property over at least a 6-month period, developing strategies for success.
On behalf of Catherine and myself, thanks for watching, and please stay tuned to our website for more information on our products and future episodes of Catching Up with the Experts.
In this video, we'll discuss and introduce yield management, a key component and relatively new feature of ResNexus. Companies who effectively implement yield management strategies report an increase in revenue of 3 to 11% and higher. In many industries, this doubles their profit. How can you use yield management to increase your revenue? We'll talk about that in just a minute. But first, let's discuss yield. Yield is your income, minus expenses or your profit margin. For example, if you're spending the same amount and bringing in more money on a per customer basis, this would cause an increase in your yield. Since yield management relies so much on the interaction between supply and demand, let's take a quick look at these two laws. Let's discuss the law of demand. It works like this. Demand decreases as cost increases. The higher the price of an item, the less people will demand it. Therefore, the less quantity is needed. Think private jets. Not too many people are buying private jets because of the high price. However, if the price is lower, people can buy the item without breaking the bank. Think cupcakes. As consumer demand increases, higher quantities are needed. Now let's talk about the law of supply. This law shows how sellers respond to price. Supply increases as price increases. When an item sells at a low price, sellers aren't motivated to sell a lot of those items, so quantities stay low. If the price of an item is high and people are in the mode of buying that item, sellers want to supply that item to earn more money, so they produce higher quantities. A great example of this is smartphones. During their initial production, quantities of smartphones were limited because sellers didn't know how the market would respond to the price. Quantities quickly increased once sellers realized the market would support the higher prices. For customers, when goods get expensive, demand drops. But for sellers, when goods sell at a high price, supply rises. You can see then that the relationship between price and quantity is opposite for customers and sellers. This point here, where the two graphs intersect, is reached when supply and demand are equally matched. This is when the economy is at what we call equilibrium. When this happens, everything is operating at maximum efficiency because there are customers for all the goods and goods for all the customers. Now let's see what happens to supply and demand in the real world and how they interact with each other. You have rooms to sell, and you want customers to fill those rooms. So you've got to find the price point that keeps demand strong, but not so strong that supply suffers. It's a total balancing act to stay as close to equilibrium as possible. So this is the area you want to stay in. We'll call it the maximum revenue zone. Why is it important to stay in this zone? Let's see what happens when supply and demand go out of whack. If you set your prices too low, you'll have excess demand. Remember, that's where customers are lined up wanting what you have to offer, but you're running low on inventory. Think of Thanksgiving. Have you ever been out shopping on Black Friday? If so, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. Not to mention, you're killing your profit margins when your prices are too low. On the flip side, if you set your prices too high, you'll definitely have inventory available, but your customers are nowhere to be found. It's kind of like being at the movies when you dread spending that $15 on popcorn and a drink. When you're not in balance, you're either overcharging or undercharging. So your ability to vary your price plays a very powerful role in managing your business's supply and demand. This is yield management. It's being in the zone of supply and demand. You want to get the highest price per customer you can while still keeping a high number of customers. It's complete business efficiency. But here's where it gets tricky. Businesses are constantly moving in and out of the zone in response to market changes in supply and demand. Imagine your yield management strategy automatically taking into account market factors such as industry trends, local demand, competition, weather, time of year, or short notice bookings. Business owners who use yield management effectively have been surprised to find that offering discounts for certain things like booking reservations during the off-season or well in advance and charging more during peak seasons or short notice bookings allowed them to keep their standard rate the same but still increase profits and bring in new customers. That's why ResNexus embedded yield management right inside its software. What's the benefit, you ask? ResNexus keeps you in the zone automatically. In this dynamic marketplace, if you set your price and leave it, you're missing out on revenue opportunities. Yield management with ResNexus is controlling your inventory, helping you sell it at the right time to the right customer at just the right price. Supply and demand can be a tough principle to comprehend. It might take rewatching this video a couple of times to really understand it, so we invite you to do that. We'd like to thank you for taking a few minutes to become more acquainted with yield management.
Part 2. Selling techniques. Upselling is a technique used by many hoteliers, and basically it means selling more than the client received when the reservation was made. Therefore, it is important for the employees to be able to present other services which may be of interest for guests, upgrades, packages, or special treats. Keeping a client database will help the hotel identify repeat guests and can help in retaining them through special offers, packages, and discount rates. It's important for every hotel to retain existing clients, as they will spend money every time they come back and are also a good tool for free advertising. Besides taking care of existing customers, hotels have to implement a good marketing strategy in order to gain new ones. Using media and internet for publicity will increase clients' database and will generate more revenue.
Today's highly competitive world sees guests with greater choice, and more innovative ways are needed to gain their business. To each guest, their experience with you reflects their experience with Toga Hospitality. Each and every interaction you have with a guest is an opportunity for you to sell the fabulous products, services, and facilities we have at our hotels. Guest service selling doesn't necessarily mean getting additional revenue from our guests. It means selling our hotels by offering exemplary service such as our SNAP ethos, so that our hotels become the hotels of choice for our guests, their family, and friends. It is important to know what the features and benefits of our products and services are if we want to successfully sell them to our guests. Features refer to the physical or measurable characteristics of a product or service. For example, a typical Medina apartment hotel room has a fully equipped kitchen, separate living, dining and bedroom, as well as a laundry. The benefit of this to our guests is a spacious apartment with all the comforts of home. Another example of selling features and benefits can be seen in any of our restaurants. Never focus on the price of a product or service, but do focus on the value and benefit it will give to a guest. Price will quickly be forgotten if the guest's needs are totally satisfied.
Can I offer you a glass of our Cabernet Merlot? I think it'll go really well with your meal this evening. Sounds great.
Add-ons are accessory items which relate to the main product or service that the guest is purchasing. The two main types of add-on selling are upselling and cross-selling. Upselling refers to offering a premium version of a product or service. For example, a one-bedroom apartment instead of a studio room, or a full buffet breakfast instead of a continental breakfast. Cross-selling refers to additional products or services that complement the original. For example, a muffin with a coffee or car parking with a room. With add-on sales, the hotel is receiving additional revenue due to the purchase of additional or premium products or services that we sell at our hotels. Here are a few tips to follow to help you promote our products and services to our guests. Always incorporate the elements of SNAP. Work out the guest's needs first, then suggest the product or service that the guest might be interested in. Mention the product or service to be helpful, not pushy. Don't turn it into a negative guest experience. Respect the guest's lack of interest. Don't spoil a good encounter by coming across too heavy. Be straightforward rather than sly in how you bring up the product or service. Be enthusiastic, but at the same time, be sensitive to the guest's reaction. Remember, a thorough understanding of the products and services we sell at our hotels will make offering them to our guests a simple and easy process.
Part 3. Forecasting. Forecasting is a great tool used by managers in the hospitality industry in order to plan future actions based on past results. Each organisation has statistic data about past years, and based on that data, can make marketing strategies for the future. Many organisations within hospitality industry are using forecasts to determine the success or failure of last year's activities. Based on the results of forecast, they can make important managerial decisions regarding future marketing and business strategies. If the data from last year's results show that strategies were used efficient, the organisation will follow the same path. But in case the results were not good, they will know in advance what areas need improvement and what changes that have to be made in order to maximise revenue.
Whether business forecasts pertain to finances, growth, or raw material needs, it's important to remember that a forecast is little more than an informed guess, but it's an important guess that fuels many big decisions. Here are a few of the basics and risks of business forecasting. Qualitative forecasts are expert-driven. They depend on input from market experts or the market as a whole as the basis for their projections. Examples include market research that polls many people on a product or service, and the Delphi method, which entails incorporating expert opinions. Quantitative forecasts seek to remove human elements and focus solely on data. The indicator approach looks at the relationships between indicators, like GDP and unemployment rates, to estimate the performance of lagging indicators. Economic modeling tests the consistency of data sets over time and the strength of the relationship between data sets. Time series methods use past data to predict future events. The process usually starts when forecasters choose a problem and then choose theoretical variables in a data set. The forecaster makes explicit assumptions to save time and simplify the process, and then he picks a model that fits the data set. Finally, the forecaster analyzes the data and compares the forecast to what actually transpired. There are 3 problems with relying on forecasts. They might be based on faulty data, they can have difficulties factoring in unexpected events, and they can't integrate their own impact, meaning management becomes too preoccupied with data and trends instead of growing the business. The bottom line is business forecasting may have its challenges, but when it's used properly, forecasting helps companies plan ahead and remain healthy in all conditions.